Hey folks, welcome to another episode of ASP.NET Core from Zero to Overkill. Even though not really ASP.NET in this case, we are going to continue building the frontend with Vue.js as we started it in the previous episode. So in this one and in the next one, we'll still need to work on this part. So no ASP.NET for 3 episodes, I think. But yeah, we need the frontend to see what we are building in the backend. And Vue.js seemed like a nice choice. To continue what we did in the previous episode. So we built a component and this page here, and we have feature parity with what we had before, but we still don't call the backend. Before integrating with the backend, I want just to make a change to, instead of having the data available directly in the component, so if we go here to groups, we have here, of course it won't be hard-coded once it goes to the backend, but besides this I want to use the store, or in this case with Vuex, but if you know more about React, you probably know Redux, and in the Angular world there's also NGRX. So it's a way to centralize all the information on the front end, so like the front end database, where all the information, all the changes that are made to the information are all centralized there instead of spread around the application, to simplify the maintenance. So something like a repository pattern maybe, although it's not really the same, but one can think of it that way, as a way to centralize all the access, being it read or write to the data, in this case only data in the front end. So the concepts around this kind of thing are, I think, similar, disregarding the framework, be it Vue, Angular or React. The base is all the same. So we have state, which is like the database where the data is kept, and then we can access it to get our information. We can create getters, which are like, I would say, views, so we can transform what we have in state, so the parts of the application that needs that information, but maybe in a pre-processed format, can use the getters. Then we have mutations, which is where the state may be changed. It's the only way. So the state of the application can only be changed through mutations, which, like we see here, like a mutation increment. So we have the state increment by 1, or we can increment by 10, something like that. So this is the only way to change the state. Then we have actions, which are similar to the mutations, but may or may not cause a mutation, I think. But most of the times probably it will cause a mutation, but not directly. It will invoke a mutation. So the action invokes a mutation, and in mutations we can't do stuff asynchronously, like going to the API. So we need to have actions. So you can already see we'll be using both of these. So the mutations to set our groups, and the actions to get the groups from the API. And modules, this is like a way to split the state in several parts. We'll start without this, but then we'll add it. So we'll create a module for the groups part. Right now the application doesn't have much, but when it does, it's nice to have this separation. But let's start from the beginning with creating some state. If you remember, when I created the application using the CLI, I said I wanted to use the store, the Vuex, so there's already a file here. So we could go here and start putting stuff up. But I don't think a file will be enough for organizing everything, so I'll create already a new folder. called store, and move this over here. Don't touch it. Call it index. Okay, so let's start. I'll keep it simple for now without modules and stuff like that, but then we'll add it. Another disclaimer that I said in the previous episode, I am no expert in Vue, so you shouldn't follow blindly anything I say here in general, and much less in regards for Vue. So I'm learning along the way as well. So the state, what we want to have groups. So all the groups will be like an array. So we could just put this here, but we are using TypeScript for a reason, because we want to have this nice and tidy. So I'll create here a new file. Also the project structure is very likely not great, but so over here in the state I'll create a new interface. I want a groups array, but I need a group, so over here on the group we need the same that we have here. So what comes from the backend. And now we can go to the state, and instead of doing it this way, which totally works and it's the usual way, I want to make use of TypeScript. So this is options. Can go and make a star options. Store options of root state. So this is wrong. And it basically is this. This. So the state. No, it's all. So state is missing groups. So we should have groups here. Okay. Instead of this being empty, let's go to the component or the view. Grab this. And put it here. No need for this yet. We'll comment all of this as we do the migration. And now we need to go to the store. If I'm not mistaken, we can just go here and do store dot state. This should work, although not very type saved. Let's see if we have this working. Seems to be working. Let's just make sure by changing the state a bit. And it's correct. Now we have our information in the store instead of directly in the component. Now we need the operations to change that. To make the changes, like I mentioned just a bit ago, we need to use the mutations. So basically we want all of this, but in there. So I'm just going to copy this and it will be over here. So it will be update. And it will get a, let's add this here, group. Returns void. In here, no, I'm missing something. The first argument for the mutations, if I'm not mistaken, is, I'm probably mistaken, but I think we have access to the state, or not. What am I doing wrong? Let me check here. Documentation, mutations. Oh, the first argument is the state. So just like this. Okay. And now instead of this, I want state. Okay, now it works. Okay, now we have the update. We want, I'm just going to order it by add. Remove. Now let's copy and remove. And copy add. Okay, I need this. This is wrong, but bear with me. Okay, so we have add, update, and remove. Now we need to call it from here. We are doing mutations because it's enough for now, but we'll have to change this to actions in the future because we need to go to the backend, but right now this will work. So to do this, we can do this store commit is the way to call the mutations. So store commit in the name of the mutation. So on update, we want to call update with group. Although this is a group view model, and over here we are using a group, it will work because the type is exactly the same, and being JavaScript, the typing and all that stuff, and it will work. Over here on remove, and on add, so with these changes it should be working exactly as it was before. Let's see if it's working like before. So go here, sample group, edited, save. Okay, failed. Why? Okay, let me just change this for the linter to leave me alone. Mutations, add, update, remove. What's wrong here? Let's check this here. So this is an extension for Vue.js, for Vuex and Vue.js. So components, Vuex, groups, sample group. It's here. So why is it not correct on the state? There's certainly something wrong over here. Oh, probably it's this. Will it work now? Nope. Okay, there was a mutation. Oh, but it is changed in the store, but didn't change here. So, okay, got it. So the problem is, over here, we are saying that groups equals this, but when it changes, it doesn't change this one. So what we need to do is make this a getter, I think. Let me check here. State, getting state. Need to make it a computed. I think to make it computed here, I think we can do a getter. How do we do a getter in TypeScript? access. So the problem was we had a field and I was putting there the groups, but then when they changed it wasn't reflected. So now we have a getter. This can go away. So now we have a getter, and when this changes it will be noticed. So now we have this working as it was before, I think. Let me create another group. Edit, remove. Okay, so it's working. Another thing you might notice is I do this, save, go here, go back here, and it stayed the same because now the state is centralized and not created each time the component is created. I was noticing I did this not very well over here on the here. So state is root state. It isn't needed, but I like it. Okay, let's continue looking at this. Like I said, when we connect this to the backend, we'll need to use actions instead of mutations, because we need to do some things asynchronously, so make the requests. So let's change this to use actions. Let's go back here, we have actions. We'll basically create kind of the same. So add, and over here, if I'm not mistaken, what do we get here? Actions. Will be void for now, will become a promise in the future. So what's this? Action context. Let's say context, and over here, if I'm not mistaken, we can go and do commit. So when we get a group, right now we just want to do context dot commit add the group. Make API request before so right now it will only do this, but in the future it will do more. Now update. One thing we can do here is, instead of doing the context, because all we need is the commit, we can deconstruct and get commit. So over here it will be right now it will be this. Right here we don't need it. Void. And the same for remove. This is wrong. ID And over here, instead of commit, we want dispatch. Dispatch. So we are dispatching actions and not instead of mutations. The behaviors should be the same. So let's check out sample group, edited, save, still working. Sounds about right. One thing we should do here as well would be to load the groups. So let's simplify this here. Make it like this. This will be empty, and we want to go to the API. We want to fetch groups from the API, but right now we're doing this way. And then we want to commit with a set groups. So over here, set groups. And over here we just want state.groups equals groups. So again, should be working mostly the same. Okay, it's empty because we need to fetch it. A place we can put this here is on the view. I think there's a life cycle event called mounted. Lifecycle hooks mounted. So called after the instance has been mounted. There's also before mount. Lifecycle diagram. New view, init. Before mount. It's not really that important. We just want to make the request to the backend at the beginning of the control. It will take some time, so not right now because we're simulating, but let's imagine it can take a while to load the groups. So I'll put it in mount, but maybe it could go before that. Still have to study this part. So public mounted, probably void. And then we do this store dispatch. How did I call it? Load groups. So let's see this here. Okay, so now the groups are loaded. Now if we edit this and we go here and here, we lose it because every time we call load groups we're overriding it, but it's not a matter to worry about, because this will go to the API and the API will bring always the latest one, not just this hard-coded part. One thing I'm starting to notice is that this is getting too big. Okay, not really big right now because it's only one part of the logic for the groups, but this is starting to be a bit messy with the mutations and the actions and everything. So let's start breaking this up and create a module for the groups part. So to start, the actions are a star action tree of state. So let's extract this. So the state is a root state, leave it like that. Then mutations, mutation tree, mutation tree of root state, probably. Exactly. Root state. This is what? Actions, action tree, root state, and we can get this. Okay. Now it's easier to get this in another part. So for modules, let's check this out here. So modules are used this way. We create a module which has its own state, mutations, actions, getters, and all that. And then we create the store with the modules. Okay, so let's see. I'll create a new folder here, modules, and then new folder, groups, to split it up when in the future we have more modules. And I'll create a new index. And I'll separate the actions and the mutations and all that stuff. So we need here actions, mutations, oh, and of course the state. So over here we'll grab this part, put this here, and this will no longer be part of the root state. We'll create here so it will be the same but separated. Now let's start moving everything. So the actions over here, this doesn't exist, of course. The actions, can bring them over here. And the action tree, I think it's over here. We should do this. We need that ID. We don't need that ID here. We'll need it somewhere else. For the group. Yes. So these are the actions for the groups part. We can export them. Now we'll go here again and grab the mutations. Let's also export them. Group state. Okay. No ghost. Let. Okay. So we have the state, which is basically what we had as a root, but now it's just for the groups. We have the mutations, the actions. So now we need to export the module. So exporting the module, let's see, export groups, which is module 3. Let's go with module just to try. Type arguments, okay. Root. So I already said it, but I'm using these interfaces because I want it to be explicit. It wouldn't be needed. I could just go with it typical this JavaScript way, but okay, so use the module. Now we can pass it the actions, the mutations, and the state. Maybe not. I think we should do it maybe like this. Yes. Okay, and I've seen something over here in the modules that is namespace. Yes, getters are registered under global. Okay, how does this work? So how do we use something if we put a namespace on it? So module namespace, So we would say namespace true, but how would we use it in the application? We'll take a look. We'll take a look in a minute. Right now, let's finish this part. So the state index should be done. So now we need to include this here. So over here, we don't want this anymore. What we want is modules. Groups. This should be it. But for this to work, we need to get the modules. So let's see if this is working as it was before. So let's put this false. So this should be working as it was. Clearly not. The values are there. We have the mutations, the groups, the actions. Let's see here base state. We go here, set groups, mutation, put the objects there. Oh, of course. So now in the view, I'm lost over here. This no longer state.groups, but the module. How do we go to the module? .groups. Seems weird, but okay, it's it. So that was what was missing. So state, then the module, then the state inside the module. Okay. Now let's play around and check out how this works with this true. This should not work right now. Okay, so let's find out why not. Let's take another look at the docs. See if find out. Oh, count. Okay, should be this. So let's check this out. State views. So dispatch groups, upload groups, and over here okay, that was it. Seems nice. So we can improve this probably. Instead of hard coding these strings over here, we should create some constants. So let's go over here to the actions. Export. Let's hear the docs if there are any recommendations. Okay, types. This sounds nice. Let's do and go to the here. Oh, before that. So groups. Now we go here and let's test. Yes, much better. It's the same, but without hard coding it. Just to wrap up, I think there's a way to go here and make this a bit easier. So instead of this getter with all of this, we can do a thing that is, if I'm not mistaken, we can install Vuex class. So instead of doing things the way I showed, we can use annotations to get there. So state how is it? So sorry. We should be able to go here and do groups. No actions. Isn't this correct? Let's state. this private what? Yes. More thing. How about the namespace? Okay. Oops. Okay. So it should be the same, but let's check it out. Yes, seems to be working. Nice. So it's a matter of preference. I don't know. It ends up being more code. Maybe easier to understand or not. It's, yeah, really just preference. And we could do the same for this store dispatch. We could use this action and mutations. So probably at groups module dot action, and then I'll do it like this because this has the namespace. Maybe it shouldn't. Depends on what we are using. Let me just try this. Groups, which is a function that gets nothing and returns nothing. So let's try this. Is it working? Apparently. Only linting issues, so yes. Okay, so it works the same. It's a matter of preference. So, yeah. I guess this is it for this episode. I don't know how long it is already, but hopefully it's not another hour and a half like the previous episodes. So in the next episode we'll continue this part of the front end with the connection to the backend. So we're going to change these actions to make requests to the backend. So we can wrap up this front-end part and get back to our backend with ASP.NET Core. Hopefully you enjoyed it, even though I'm learning this along the way. And see you again in the next one. See yous!